Maybe don't know.
This time, this time, this time, this time, this time to build, 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 this time power, this time to build power, this time to build power, this time to build power.
3 reasons why soft grades matter. I'll come clean. I'm a defender of soft grades. In my opinion, they not only matter, but they're necessary for growth and balance. Does that mean I'm against stiff grades? Not at all. In fact, if we didn't have soft grades, wouldn't stiff grades just be your average, everyday, normal grades? Honestly, I'm bothered a little every time that I hear someone disparage or choose not to do a certain climb because it's considered soft. I should just let the ridiculousness of it float away in the breeze, but it's a tough one for me to let go of for whatever reason. I feel the same defensiveness when Sierra Blair coils dissed, but that's a different story for another day. Here's a fact for you. When you do a rock climb and log it on your 8A, no matter what grade you give it or what grade the guidebook gives it, the difficulty of said rock climb does not change. It's exactly the same amount of challenging for you, no matter what number you or anyone else attaches to it. Hard to argue, right? So let's talk some of the reasons why soft grades should remain exactly what they are. 1. Progress. For the sake of progress, we need soft grades. The next logical step from a stout 12A is still a soft 12B, no matter what your ego wants to do. I've seen dozens of climbers spend months adding half-pound weights to each successive hangboard workout and then want to jump to the next stout grade when they get outside. Why throw out the logical progression when your time is limited and it matters most? Is your ego controlling things? 2. Quality. You know what? Some of those butter soft 12Bs are really fucking good. Some of those super stout 12Bs really fucking suck. Frankly, I'll take a 5-star inflated V7 over a 2-star sandbagged V9 every single day. Don't get me wrong. I'll climb both, but I'll recommend the V7 over and over, while the V9 will be just another tick. Grades have absolutely nothing to do with quality ratings. And for me, quality is a far better reason to climb something. 3. Sanity. Let's be honest here. Grades are already confusing enough. Imagine if we tried to consolidate so that all grades are solid. We'd have to create a new grade range for those climbs at the low end of each spectrum. 12B-, V9A+. It's only going to get more complicated with further delineation. I suppose if you really want to, you should just go ahead and do it. Ultimately, you're free to grade things however you want with whatever system you so desire. Just don't be surprised when nobody wants to discuss why that V6 you just did should only get V5D. Maybe all of you who are staunch supporters of the stout should just acquiesce to the existence of soft grades. I mean, without them, you'd have nothing with which to prop up your teetering egos.
I am Briana, Mazzolini-Blanchard. I live in Cincinnati. I am on the board of directors for the Red River Gorge Climbers Coalition. I hilariously bought my husband off of Amazon. No, I have been married for 10 years. My husband's my climbing partner. You know, we get to do life together, and we have an almost 5-year-old son who tags along on all of our adventures. And yeah, that's who I am.
So I want to hear a little about this initiative you've started. I saw the photos from RockQuest, and I'm really interested in knowing what's happening there. So
totally.
Fill us in.
So we're really grateful. We being the RGCC was really grateful to get some funding from ALA One, which is a soda company in Kentucky, really popular. Mm-hmm. And they were basically like, here's some money. whatever your heart desires in terms of diversity, equity, equitable access, go do it. And here's some money to start it. And one thing, the team had a lot of really fantastic ideas. But one thing in the midst of COVID that felt really practical, as gyms were starting to open back up, was, let's offer a night of free climbing, and let's offer it to groups of people that might not be able to access the gym. And so we were able to, and have been able to, offer free climbing nights to folks from marginalized communities, so Black, Brown, Indigenous, people of color, the queer LGBTQ community, folks from the adaptive community. So not only are we able to offer free climbing and free gear rental to that group, we're also able to offer free climbing to folks who are brand new to climbing or cannot afford the means. And
so cool.
Yeah, thank you. RockQuest and Climb Time here in Cincinnati have been so awesome as these first two gyms. Those are my home gyms, and it was so great to get them on board to start this. I see a lot of affinity groups and spaces for maybe one particular group of people or community, but I really wanted to make sure we were able to, hit these three different communities of not only people of color and folks from historically marginalized communities, but also if you're a first-time climber, we want to offer a space for you to come in and climb with other maybe more seasoned climbers. And if you can't afford it, regardless of how you identify, we want to create the space for you too. And so, other gyms are reaching out, and my friends are sharing it all over the place, and we're getting really excited about it. And I hope it grows. I'm really excited about what can happen with it here, in the Midwest and potentially in the Southeast. I'm just super grateful and super encouraged by it. So hoping, we do it every month, once a month right now, and we're kind of alternating between gyms at the moment. But I've got big dreams, man, and I'm hoping that it grows and we can just offer free climbing to as many people as possible, because it is such an entry thing to the sport that we love. A lot of people don't have access to even afford coming to the gym. And so to be able to bridge that gap there at the very least, and then, more that we can do possibly down the road is just gonna, we're out here in numbers. And so it's just so important to have these spaces.
I'm sure people can hear the smiling in your words, but I wish people could see your face when you're talking about this too, because there's an obvious, wealth of passion behind this coming from you. And I think that means so much. And I know that a lot of gym owners, managers, head setters, coaches listen to this podcast. So I will get info for them to reach out to you, and it'll be in the show notes. If anybody wants to figure out how to get a similar program happening at their gym, events happening at their gym, then they can reach out to you directly. So
that'd be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. That kind of in my reaching for a segue that I like to do, that kind of leads me into this. One of the things about climbing that's so kind of insidious in that, we may talk as climbers about grades, which we fucking love to do, and not mean to harm someone, by talking about how this grade is soft or whatever. But we often do. We do end up harming people's, their own self-confidence on our own comments. And I think it's something we could do away with. And we have talked on this podcast about, we don't really like the word soft. But when I wrote the book, my thought was, I can't change the use of that word necessarily. People are going to use it. So I'm going to defend the word, because I think there's such value in soft grades. They have to be there. How the hell do you have a hard grade if you don't have a soft grade? It just can't happen. We're going to start trying to slice up each grade category into even smaller and smaller pieces. So trying to turn it into something that isn't a detractor for new climbers, for people who are excited about climbing their first V4, and it might be a soft V4, but so the fuck what? It's still a V4.
Right. Yeah.
So this chapter for me was a kind of a really personal one, because I never understood the like downing of soft grades.
Yeah. And it made, I see the value so much in them, because even for me personally, I remember my husband got really into climbing way before I was even interested. And he would even argue that I hated it because of how much he loved it and I didn't. And so I would go into the gym and just, get on the easiest thing and climb that while he did whatever it was that he was doing. But one day I got on that soft V4 in the gym, and something clicked in my head, and I was like, wow, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can try a little harder. And that was the propelling point for me. That soft V4 that I got on, or whatever you want to call it, had that not been there, and had I not tried that out, I wouldn't be where I am, and wherever I hope to go. And it really motivated me to try harder. And then, I got to climb a hard V4 or whatever. Without them, and even speaking to some of these new climbers that are going to come through, with this initiative, or what, anything that anyone else chooses to do, those soft grades are what's going to almost bring people in and make them believe in themselves, and that it's possible for them to climb harder. That soft V4 is the thing that we need before we can climb that hard V4. And it pushes us to believe that climbing is something we can do. So I'm all about it. I love it. And yeah, people are going to be out there, dissing the soft V7 that you do for the first time or whatever it is. But, it's the thing that needs to happen before you then can go out and try the next harder thing for you. And it's all subjective too. That soft V4 is really hard V4 for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Who the fuck knows what the grades mean enough that you can say, oh, that's soft, that's hard. You can only really relate it to your own experience. You have no idea how it feels for anyone else. And I mean, I argue this on Instagram all the damn time, because I'm always putting charts up about grades and how ridiculous they are. And someone inevitably is always like, well, no, V4 always feels like V4. And I'm like, well, then you've only climbed one V4 and you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, because I can't possibly, I've climbed 100 513s. I can't possibly tell you the difference between 12D and 13A. I can't. I no clue, I've climbed 12Ds that I thought were 13B. I've climbed 13Bs that I thought were 12C. I don't know, and no one else does either.
Right.
But the fact is, even if we could objectively grade things, that soft grade is the next logical step from the hard grade below it.
Right.
And why not use those as a springboard? I want to seek out the thing that suits me the best in the next grade level, and start there. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop there. I'm going to build around it as much as possible. But it just makes sense for me to start on whatever the, air quotes, soft grade is.
Yeah.
So.
And I really think that too, when you really hold that stigma of oh, soft grades are bad, you prolong your progress, because you might be out here seeking this hard V whatever or hard 12A, and it takes you 3 times as long as if you'd just gone and climbed the soft 12A and you could have, you know what I mean? So it really does prolong any progression when you hold so tightly to the soft, hard, ego-driven mindset, instead of just climbing it. Just climb it and move on, and it is what it is. And it's only going to be a better climber.
Yeah, we can look at really high-profile examples, like say when Fred Nicole established what at the time was considered the world's first V15, which was Dreamtime. Dreamtime has since been called, entry-level V15 at best. Do you think Fred Nicole fucking cares that it's an entry-level V15? No, he doesn't care whether it's V14 or V15, and it still is one of the most famous rock climbs in the world. You're not going to look at anybody who's climbed Dreamtime and go, oh, that's just soft. It doesn't matter. Do a real V15. Why don't you? That's not how it's going to go. So soft V3 is no different. It's just a springboard into the grade. So
I agree completely. And like you said earlier, it can be a triggering word, but it's almost
absolutely.
Like, what else do we use? There's a conversation that needs to be had about certain words that are truly triggering and shouldn't belong in our language and things like that anymore. And yeah, I think, but I don't think that anyone's going to stop calling them soft grade. Like the ego is just too strong of a thing to really make anybody quit, but it's not a bad thing. It shouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. There are a lot of things I've climbed that when I do them, I'm like, oh, well, that felt squishy. That's definitely low in the grade, and that's fine. It was ridiculously fun. You're literally not changing the rock climb at all if you called it hard V6 or soft V7. I don't care. It's the exact same rock climb. It's the exact same amount of fun. It was the exact same amount of challenge.
Right.
You can put whatever label you want.
Right. And I wish that people really, truly focused on, oh, that climb was fun or that climb was challenging. Let me learn something from it instead of needing to be so driven by the grades. I mean, that's my own personal perspective anyway. They're important, but, I think sometimes it's the end all be all the time in climbing. And it can be really damaging mentally. I mean, absolutely damaging mentally, especially, when people want to, you go out and send something that was really difficult for you. And then all of a sudden you hear someone call it soft for whatever reason. And that can be really damaging on, to you personally, especially if you've been working really hard for your own personal progress and whatnot. And I don't think it's not nearly the most important thing. Like, did you enjoy it? Did you learn something? Did it challenge you? What can you take from it to the next hard climb you want to try? And if we can operate in that mindset, which is a mindset that I'm really still learning.
Sure.
I'm not a growth mindset person. I was very fixed mindset. And really only up until I started climbing and became friends with Tyler did I really start to grow as a climber and see the smaller wins inside of the big win, which is this end. And so, I try to always look at it more of like, oh, did I learn something? Was it fun? Was the movement cool? Did it challenge me to do something? Because every day and any day, a compression slope or boulder is going to, regardless of the grade, is going to be way harder for me than climbing a crimp rail. And so, whether it's, I'd probably fall off of a V3, in that style. So that's my weakness. And so I don't know, it's just so subjective that these negative words can really be a hindrance.
Yeah. And it's also, we live in this little bubble where we do communicate in these numbers constantly, that's the way we talk about rock climbing. How hard is it? How often do you hear that phrase? Constantly, outside and in the gym. And then we somehow want to give our opinion on this grade as if it's this objective thing. We make a statement about it. And then we want to make this other, seemingly contradictory statement of, oh, grades don't matter, dude. Just climb for yourself,
Right.
But But here we just spent this entire time talking about grades, using that as a means of communication, making this statement as if we know what we're talking about. And then we're like, oh, grades don't matter.
Right.
It doesn't really compute for climbers who are learning in that environment. It's a hard thing to parse out in my brain. And I've been doing this for 25 years. So it's tricky.
It is. And I think, as climbing is growing and people are getting into it, the last thing that they need, especially as it expands to involve more folks from various community groups that maybe haven't been introduced to climbing before, or maybe have and just want to feel included in it. Like this is a real surefire, easy way to make someone not feel a part of something.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to do because there is, in a sense, this spirit of exclusive, like that climbing is exclusive, like in certain spaces. And so
yeah, totally
you're throwing around soft grades and hard grades, and you want to, like, that can be a hindrance to people that really want to try it out for the first time, and or might be making slow progress as a beginner or something like that. But you're absolutely right. Like we say all day, oh, it doesn't matter, but then we have a half an hour long conversation about it.
Right.
So it's definitely there. It's there. But I guess, how we choose to use it, is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Funny conversation to try and have, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it. I love struggling through these conversations without answers,
Right.
But I appreciate, again, you sitting down. I'm so glad that you're out there. I'm glad that I have you in my circle, and, I can't wait to see where these initiatives go, where your next idea takes you, and how your climbing evolves over the years. But I'm glad you're in this space. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it. This was great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, success or mastery. We don't tweet, we scream like eagles.
This time, Cause Ja is the sinister character.